Hey folks, here's a bunch of rabbits prepared, and I'm going to show you how I cut them up. Just going to change hands with the camera so I can get myself in here with the knife and the meat. Might be a shadow in the video, folks. I hope you can get past the shadow. I hope it's a clear sight. So what I like to do with these rabbits is I basically split them open here a little bit like this, and I cut along the line here on the back thigh, but I actually go deep. So I go right along the spine. And you can see how it basically just fell off after I made that little cut. And then I just cut the rest of the meat there, and there's a chunk, nice chunk of meat. So I'll keep this one aside, and I'll do the other one. You can see the spine here though. Here's the joint where the hind was connected to. So I'm going to do the same thing to this other side. I'm going to go down deep. I'm going to cut along like this, and I'm going to basically just kind of tear it a little bit like that and cut the rest of it through. Sometimes it's a little more stubborn than other times. There, and I'll package them up for one meal. Of course, on their own piece of paper. I mean, you can use what you want. I use the old traditional meat paper. Roll it up like so. Bend one side down. Bend the other side down. And I'll write on top of here with magic marker what it is. I'll write the date down. Put it in the freezer, freeze it up, and then I know what it is. I'll take an elastic band, go around here. I'll just get an elastic band here. I'll reach over to where the elastic bands are. There's one package. Now the rest of it here, which is basically the tenderloins in the front portion of it. Well, the front portion of it, what I do is I wiggle it around here so I can find out where the front hind leg is, and I cut underneath like this. Again, folks, I'm not sure how the quality of the video is, but hope you can get past it and see. Sharp knife is always the best approach to doing something like this. There's one chunk. I'll do the same thing to this side so I can actually see where the connecting point is. Wiggle it around a little bit so I get the feel of it. There we are. And I'll go underneath. And I go deep, closest to the rib cage as I can, basically. And just cut it off. It's really that simple. Now I'm going to hold these back and add more to it to have a bigger meal, because there's not a whole lot of meat on here. Two of them is a good portion of meat for a person. Well, for me anyway. So I'll just place these off to the side until I have a big enough pile of them. Then we have the rest of it, which is pretty much the tenderloins. And this is how I do it. I basically just find the rib cage here, and I cut off the belly flap here down along the rib cage, and I go to the last rib, feel it with my fingers, of course, and I cut it down like so. Then I come to the other side, give it a turn. Find the top of the ribs here and do the same thing. Stick the knife through, cut all the way up along the ribs. Find that last rib, make a cut. I go up. And then I flip it over and I follow the spine. Now that tenderloin actually goes right up to the neck. So I find the spine and I go on one side of the spine and I cut down. You want to go as close as you can to the spine so you don't have, you're getting all the meat with it. You'll always have a little bit of meat left over. You can't always get that, but you can get it after. And I kind of just open it up here so I can scrape along the bone. And of course, you know, you got to be careful of your fingers because you don't want them getting cut. Cut along the bones basically is all there is to it. If you want just the meat, which I do. I'm going to do it several ways. I'll show you another one how I'm going to do it. And I'll go to the other side of the spine and do the same procedure. These are all home-raised rabbits. I feed them as naturally as possible. And this tenderloin meat, boy is it tender. I guess that's why they call it tenderloins. I'm not sure, but it sure is tender. You know, there's still the front portions that's on the rib cage there, so I'll just take it, flip it up on its side, and I'll cut along like this. And I don't get too crazy about how much meat's left on the bone structure, because what I'm going to do is basically boil it down. So there's one chunk of meat and another chunk of meat here that I have to remove off of this other side's rib cage. So that's just meat. And the real tender portion of it is right here, these tenderloins. That's really, really, really tender stuff. This piece here, really tender. You cook it how you want, grind it into like a Hamburg, a ground rabbit type deal. And you can see there's not a whole lot of meat left on this, but there is still some. So I'll basically boil it and I'll finish taking off the rest of the meat. Any obvious big chunks, I'll cut it off and add it to the pile. Because for this meat here, I'm actually going to grind it up. Because I have bad teeth, so it's better for my teeth to do it that way. Then underneath, which you don't, this portion of meat here doesn't come off with those tenderloins unless you want to work at it that way to get it off, which I don't. I just do the same thing basically. I cut along the bone inside, kind of peel it back, go to the other side, keep your knife sharp. It just makes the process that much easier. Yeah, another nice piece of very tender meat. And then this is what you're left with pretty much. You still see some meat in here, which I'll just scrape it like this, because I'm going to grind it all anyhow. Not a whole lot there, but just still a little bit. And then what I'll do with the rest of this is I'll actually boil it down, kind of basically cook it, and then I'll clean it up furtherly. In the time I'm actually done with that, there won't be a whole lot left of anything except bone. Makes a good stock. All this in between the rib bones here, that'll all come out. It's a lot easier to do it by boiling it and basically cooking it than it is trying to deal with it this way. There's many ways you can strip that off the rib cage, but I don't bother with that those ways. I'm far from a professional. I just do it the way I do it. It works good and tastes good. So I'm going to put that here, let it rest, grab another one of these rabbits ready to go. So this one, I'm actually going to keep it as a roasting rabbit, so I can roast the whole thing. But what I'm going to do to store it is I'm going to cut it right in half on each side of the rib, at the end of the ribs basically. Find where the ribs are, stick the knife in, go down, and then I'll just cut through the spine. A little bit tricky, but it works. Again, you always got to be careful your fingers don't get in the way. Just give it a twist like this. And I'll take the knife again, and there we go, 2 halves. Then I'll just store it. I'll shove this inside like that. Kind of compacts it a little bit. Take another piece of paper and basically do the same thing. Just fold it all up. This is a bad example. I should actually have a larger piece of paper. So I'm going to actually do that because it's not really fitting in this piece of paper. But you get the idea. Well, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you have not. And thank you very much for those that already have.